game that everyone who follows the Cleveland Browns wanted to watch and was looking forward to on their schedule finally occurred. Deshaun Watson, Deshaun Cosby, Deshaun Roethlisberger, whatever you want to call him, finally suited up for the first time in more than 700 days on an NFL field. And as you can see, the Cleveland Browns pulled off back-to-back wins, 27-14, in a game that they really were losing early on. They were down 5-0 at one point. Houston got a field goal on their second possession to go up 3-0, and then stuffed Nick Chubb in the end zone after a wonderful kick coverage that put the Browns down inside their own 5-yard line. More specifically, I think on the 1 or 2, and then Chubb got stuffed in the end zone. It was 5-0, and then the first points of the game for the Browns was a 76-yard punt return by Donovan Peoples-Jones. And it was actually the first punt return touchdown for the Cleveland Browns since Travis Benjamin in 2015 in week 2 against the Tennessee Titans. And it was their first punt return for a touchdown on the road since Josh Cribbs back in 2011 at Baltimore. And ironically enough, the only other points the Browns scored was a meaningless fourth quarter touchdown from Seneca Wallace. Throwing at that point. I don't even remember who it was against. I researched it and it didn't seem pertinent enough. So just goes to show you exactly how much that actually meant, as bad as they were. The game against Tennessee 7 years ago, the Browns actually won that game and went to 1-1. And then again, another miserable year for them, just like this one is turning out to. The Browns with a 2-score win, but as you can see, only 304 yards of offense, 174 yards rushing. And let's actually get the stat ticker up there, and you can actually see why. Watson, very ineffective, 12 of 22, 131 yards and a touchdown. Certainly not a touchdown, an interception where he got absolutely baited by the defensive back in the end zone. Guy was standing all alone. There was nobody near him. And then I'm wanting to say it might have been David Bell that was coming across, and receiver just jumped the route. Defensive back just jumped the route. It wasn't even close. Certainly wasn't any kind of 50-50 ball. He basically kind of threw it right to him. And people are going to say, yeah, that's rust. But it's also the fact that you haven't played in 700 days. And you're going to see us go off on this tonight with a special guest on the Wise Guy Sports Show. But Watson also did actually have, as my screen just refreshed, 21 yards on 7 carries, typical, which you would figure from him. The Browns were hoping to maybe kind of, with the artificial turf, maybe turn this into a little bit of a track meet. It certainly did not happen. The Texans had 2 interceptions and 2 fumbles, so 4 turnovers here. And also, if you include them, well, actually, I can't even really say that one of the turnovers was a failed 4th down conversion. As it turns out, it was a fumble I'm sorry, I'm getting my exchanges caught up here. But Nick Chubb with a good game for him, 17 carries, 80 yards. Combine that with the strong performance he had last week against Tampa Bay. He's certainly rounding into late season form after being shut down primarily against Buffalo 2 weeks ago. And not only did Peoples-Jones have that 76-yard punt return for a touchdown, and what great footwork by him, where it looks like he was going down around the 50. As you can also see there, 3 catches for 44 yards. Continues to actually have a breakout year for him. The Browns may have not only found a punt returner, but they also might have found a very, very capable second option to Amari Cooper. And if you even want to consider how great of a year that David Njoku is having, certainly a good third option in the passing game overall. Peoples-Jones also with his speed, definitely a kind of guy, and you saw it with the kind of speed that he put on in the last maybe 20, 30 yards of that punt return, where he was not where the defender was not able to close whatsoever, even behind even with a lane behind the wall of blockers that were set up along the sideline. We all know how well Donovan Peoples-Jones can stretch the field, but the fact is they were going up against the absolute worst team in football today. You expected them to win. You expected this to be a game for either Deshaun Watson to come out and ball out, or come out and look very, very rusty and, quite honestly, bad. And it was the second half. He was bad. He got booed mercilessly in the first half. He actually had to play in front of a number of his accusers, as Tony Busby had purchased seats for him and a number of his accusers at NRG Stadium down there in Houston. The Texans, again, with 4 turnovers, they were absolutely inept in late yardage, as you can see, as were the Browns. The Browns were 4 of 13 on third down. Not a very good offensive game from them, with the exception of maybe Chubb. They got it done with their defense, causing all the turnovers. What a game, not only by why does my screen keep refreshing? I'm sorry about that. What a game by not only Peoples-Jones, but also what a game by Tony Fields. So Tony Fields actually had a fumble recovery and an interception that actually ended up going for a touchdown, a ball that was tipped on the line, and then Fields went up, got it, and then returned it 16 yards for a score. So the Browns the Browns' entire defense and special teams outscored Houston the entirety of this game. Houston still to this point has not scored 200 points on the year, and there's only a handful of teams that can say that. Another one is another team in their division, the Indianapolis Colts, who have only scored 190 to this point, going into their primetime matchup against Dallas tonight. Whether or not they get over the hump, that's another thing. But Kyle Allen for Houston, 20 of 39, 201 yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions. Dameon Pierce, 18 carries, 73 yards. And then Allen did spread the ball around a little bit. He actually got 7 different receivers involved. The most was Brevin Jordan, 4 catches, 46 yards. Chris Moore, 3 catches, 46 yards. He did hit Nico Collins on a 16-yard touchdown late in the game. Nico Collins had 3 catches for 35 yards. For the Browns, Amari Cooper, another strong outing, 4 catches, 40 yards. Kareem Hunt had 2 catches for 18, and then really just a whole lot of dink and dunk, getting setting up some screens. He got Watson got Anthony Schwartz for 12. He got Farrell Brown for 11 and Harrison Bryant for 6. And that was really it. He targeted a couple of other receivers and threw incomplete. Whereas Kyle Allen was high most of the day with his throws, Watson was very low with a lot of his. One of the catches that Kareem Hunt had, he actually had to go down and get, and then kind of turned it upfield for a pretty decent gain. But most of Watson's balls were underthrown, and quite honestly, if they wanted to be underthrown, they could have just stayed with Baker Mayfield and saved themselves, $230 million and a whole host of controversy, and probably still been in the playoff hunt. Even with this win, the Browns are probably not going to get themselves into that graphic that shows like the teams in the hunt on the right side of your screen. They're still going to have to essentially win out, and with the fact that next week they are in Cincinnati to play a red-hot Bengals team that is now starting to find their groove, especially with Lamar Jackson going down with a leg injury in Baltimore's win today. It's another Deshaun Watson lower body injury late in the year come playoff time, where he could end up missing a few games. Remember, a few years ago, the Browns actually knocked him out for the season, and it hurt them going into the playoffs. But if they're not officially eliminated from playoff contention this week, they're certainly going to be all but done next week in Cincinnati. I don't see a scenario where Watson's going to shake off that much rust and get them in the right mindset to be able to get this team another win. And then they actually have a relatively soft schedule the rest of the year. They got New Orleans, they got Washington, they got Pittsburgh, and there's a Baltimore game in there as well. So let's actually see, could the cards line up right now where if you somehow, some way out of nowhere go down and beat Cincinnati next week and Lamar Jackson's going to miss extended time, could you end up making a run? It's entirely possible, but we all know that that these are the Browns. Deshaun Watson is not an elite quarterback. He put up elite numbers in a year coming off an injury where his team went 4-12. They were mostly garbage and mop-up numbers. And you all know how I feel about him personally, as well as my partner Mike Martinez. For the Wise Guys show coming up tonight, we're going to talk about that with a special guest. But the other aspect of today's game is Denzel Ward in the first quarter got absolutely trucked, and yet is still going to look at the box score and say, hey, Ward played a good game because he picked up a fumble early in the third quarter to where Allen tried to sneak the ball up the middle just to kind of get them out of their own end zone and coughed up the football. And Ward was the only one who actually noticed it, came out, picked it up, and ran 2 yards around the rugby scrum into the end zone. The Browns had 4 drives in the first half that started inside their own 10-yard line. They had 2 drives that started at their own 1. The first half under Watson, just to show you exactly how rusty he was, 3 plays punt, 2 plays fumble by Anthony Schwartz, 9 plays interception in the end zone by Watson, 2 plays Chubb trapped in the end zone for safety, 7 plays punt, 4 plays punt. The fact that also he cut his thumb on his throwing hand in the fourth quarter, you never want to wish ill upon another player, but it's just a shame that he didn't actually do a hell of a lot worse to that. The outside of the rust for Watson, the worst news to come out of today, if you're a Browns fan, is Sione Takitaki leaving midway through the fourth quarter with apparently a significant leg injury. This may actually cause him to miss extended time, as he was down on the turf, really wasn't moving a whole lot, was actually helped up and arm around the shoulder of a couple of trainers, walked off the field, could not walk off under his own power, and then they brought a cart out to bring him back to the locker room. This actually would mean if Takitaki is going to miss extended time, if not the rest of the season, he's going to join Anthony Walker as a key linebacker in that core lost to injury. So we will be back with you 1 week from tonight against after what I'm assuming is going to be a beatdown at the hands of the Cincinnati Bengals. We're going to be joining you live here with my partner Mike Martinez in a little over 2 hours with a very special guest, Natalie Turk from Sports Illustrated. We're going to definitely dive into a little bit of college football. We're going to talk some Browns, even though Mike really doesn't want to. We're going to talk some Cleveland Cavs, and then just kind of actually get everything set up for our year-end show as well, coming up on the 17th. And we hope to see you guys then. Everybody have yourselves a great night. If we see you guys on the show here in a couple of hours, you guys are more than welcome to join us. We will certainly put your comments up on the screen. If you guys have any questions from Mike or myself during that, or if you have any questions from Natalie, we will be sure to go ahead and put them on the screen and answer any questions that you may have, any feedback that you might have, or certainly hit us up online later on in the week if you have to catch the on demand. As you can see, there's the blog and the Twitter handle, and I will see you guys here in the next couple of